Hello and welcome to another episode of Spoiled. I am Joe Juba. I am joined by Brian Shea.
Hello.
Kyle Hilliard.
Hi.
And Andrew Reiner.
Got a itchy ankle there, Kyle?
Yeah.
What's going on down
I
there?
was fixing my sock.
We are here to talk about Final Fantasy 15 because at this point we have all played a lot of Final Fantasy 15. We've all beaten it, put some time into post-game content and things like that, and we are trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah, so Joe, what happened exactly?
Well, it's not. Hold on. It's not bad writing. It is. No. They did it intentionally to be cryptic to a degree, right? It's, like the post-credit stuff is meant to have different theories attached to it.
My big sort of, not to like go broad already, but my big takeaway was like the character interactions. Like I understood that stuff. Like I was tearing up when at the very end when they were kind of like discussing, like, I know I've made peace with what I have to do, let's go do it.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand why he was doing it, but like that interaction I understood his relationship with Luna, but I didn't understand why they had to get married, but I understood that they loved each other, and that was like a good takeaway. I feel like,
but did
it was
you,
sathersifying.
Okay, well, yeah, there are a lot of
There's
things
a lot of stuff to unpack.
Yeah, let's go back to the beginning.
Yes.
So, boy, I guess one of the big things to talk about is like going into this game. One of the things you know is that they're Noctis and these four guys are going on this road trip because they start out because they're going to go marry. Noctis is going to go.
Whoa.
Okay, I don't understand anything about the relationships in this game.
Noctis needs to go marry Luna. I should also point out, we've all played the game and spent a lot of time, but like to some extent, we're just trying to figure this out ourselves too. Like no one of us has like gone online and dug super deep to get all the answers. I think it's a better discussion that way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So they're taking Noctis to go marry Luna at first. Did you? So you Kyle said that you felt like they did that you felt that relationship was there.
Yes, I feel like I got a sense that Noctis really beyond the necessity of like I have to marry this woman, like that they really did like each other and wanted to get married.
Yeah, they had some nice flashbacks, I thought, where they were kids, where they really kind of showed that they like each other.
Though I will say
right?
the majority of that understanding came from Luna's death and that sequence.
Yeah, because that's I do not agree. I did not I felt like everything that I knew about Luna was basically was because the game told me it was so.
Yeah.
Because like you don't see her enough and you don't see her in Noctis enough to get any actual sense of the relationship.
I do agree with that. I think that it was a lot of telling me rather than showing me, which isn't necessarily a good trademark of storytelling. But I did get a lot out of like the death scene, and I think that it was effective in the way that they were communicating back and forth with like the journal or like the book, whatever the thing was called.
Yeah.
I think that was an effective way to kind of like get the player into the shoes of Noctis as he's like getting ready to marry this woman who, you know, he hasn't seen in a while, I'm assuming.
Yeah, for me it was okay, they're getting married. You don't know why at that point, right? Like you're like, okay, they're getting married, so they probably like each other. Maybe, but then you learn it's like an order, it's like by the king or the kingdom is uniting these two people, and you're like, okay, do they like each other or have they even met? And then you see those flashback sequences where they are fond of each other, right? Where you're like, okay, there is something there. We'll see this develop as it goes along, but obviously,
Well, and
weird things happen at that point.
I think depending on where you come into this, you would or wouldn't know, because like I feel like they make it fairly clear in the game from the outset that it's like a political marriage. I think if you watch Kingsglaive before playing the game, you have a better sense of like their previous relationship and stuff like that.
Which I did. So maybe that's but you did as well. So we still have opposing views on that.
To me, the whole Luna thing just struck me as like there was a lot of disappointment wrapped up there for me.
Sure.
In that, like going into the game, I feel like they like marketing presented Luna as a main character, as a key part of the story, and then like
she was a key part,
a key but absent part of the story. In the same way, I think you could say the same thing about Regis, about Noctis's dad, right? So that like to me, like it's almost, it strikes me as a moment of sort of like unearned emotional payoff, right? Where it's like, oh no, Luna died, and you as a player are supposed to connect with that because you've been told Luna is a big character. but like none of her presence in the game really like supports that for me.
Just the fact that you and your bros were like often talking about, all right, let's go to Luna, let's go. Like that was that build up clicked for me.
Okay,
like, and maybe it's just because I wanted it to be romantic.
No, it's going to be different for everyone, of course. Yeah, yeah.
So I guess I don't want to interject my 5-year-old's thoughts too much, but she watched me play the game and I took notes on what she said, and one of my favorite parts was in that sequence where Luna died, which was a surprise to me, by the way. I did not expect it to happen. When she is like, they're kind of in a subconscious like, hey, it's okay, Noctis, I have to do this, and like there's flowers and it's like spread. My daughter like was asking all these questions, what's going on, what's happening, and then like she was silent for like a minute during that sequence, and then she just shouts, what is happening? Like she was so confused about like, and I just was like, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. She's gone now. There's a blue stuff.
Yeah, there's a blue stuff.
Well, another thing that was weird about the Luna stuff for me is that like, so afterwards, like they tell you that she dies, but then there are all these sort of, I remember like on 2 or 3 occasions there being some sort of hint that like they haven't found Lady Luna Freya's body. So like I kept expecting this other shoe to drop of like, oh, maybe it's a fake out death, maybe she didn't really, and then
they thought she died twice and were wrong twice almost.
Yeah, basically, because like you never know. So like I kept bracing myself for like some 11th hour reappearance, and like, oh no, but then like why not just make it final rather than like hint that it isn't.
Like I haven't played as many Final Fantasy games as you have, but I've played enough to know that like a dead character is not necessarily dead.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and an alive character is not necessarily alive either. So I think that like I was waiting for that last minute twist for Luna to be like, oh, surprise everyone, I'm here to help you in your final battle. Yeah. And it just,
Given her importance in that, I thought there was maybe some kind of Obi-Wan mystical thing going on. Like, okay, she's ascended, kind of like Aerith or Eris.
Yeah.
She's ascended to a different realm, the Umbra, whatever you call it in Final Fantasy. Like, that's what I was waiting for. And I think there might be a degree of that at the end, which we'll get to later.
Yeah. I want to get to another point that Kyle brought up too, that the campfire scene, which is sort of the post-credits thing where Noctis is sitting around a fire with these guys and sort of saying, you know, oh, you guys are the best. So apparently there's some debate. I saw some discussions online that there's some debate about the timeline as far as when this campfire scene happens.
So I've seen
way
2.
back.
Like,
well, Noctis has the beard, so
oh, it is. So it is.
Because
there's considerable time passage between
about 10 years. I'm reading anyway.
Okay,
so it says it literally says 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which real quick, when you come back, 10 years pass, and it shows you your save screen. It says days passed like 1. It should say 10 years have passed.
10 years and 1 day.
Post credits campfire. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's where it gets really emotional. Then like this is where
for me.
Yeah,
it's where he realizes
he's crying.
His true lot in life, basically, right?
He already knows it, but it's sort of his last chance to his last chance to like say it to his bros.
So when did you take that as happening?
So I thought that unquestionably happens because like right before they get to Insomnia, there's like there's like a campsite here, and it's like I think even when you save there, it's the campsite name is like the final campsite or something like that.
I think it is.
That was my assumption.
Yeah, so my assumption is that it like after the story's concluded, it flashbacks to sort of the last time Noctis was able to really sort of tell his buddies.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
What I thought had happened was that this was a post-death scene, and they were in like the afterlife, and they're like, hey, you know, we're all around this campfire again. And
but why have that conversation?
Well, he finally has a chance to tell them the thing he wish he would have said. That was kind of the way I took it. But like, I'm not married to that idea. It could totally be what you're saying as well.
That seems to be the other theory of it too. And some of that also ties into some other questions. Because like, okay, if it is, I think it is unquestionably before the final battle when everyone's still around.
That would make sense.
But I can see how someone would think otherwise. And if it is a post-story sort of like afterlife scene, then you enter into the debate of whether or not Ignis, Prompto, and Gladio actually died in that final sequence.
They totally died.
I think so.
Everybody died.
They did, yeah.
Hey, Wade, can you pump in Everybody Hurts by REM? I mean, like, seriously, like, it's not even implied. It's like,
Really?
We're doing our thing to the death. You have been basically raised to do this thing to the death.
I guess I looked at it as like an analytical kind of thing because it's like those demons pop up as Noctis, and I'm like, well, they can handle them while I'm taking care of this stuff. I didn't think they died, but then they do show up in the end in heaven.
Yeah, but remember, these are the same guys that when you cast fire, they go running through it.
That's true. That's a solid point.
I feel like I can't tell if it's intentionally ambiguous because like
They want it to be ambiguous.
If they had done a scene where it's like where it's the three Noctis is walking into the palace, your three buddies are standing there, and just like this overwhelming horde of demons comes up, and so if they do the thing where it's just like a whole army of them converging, then you could make that assumption. But like the way it actually is just like a handful of demons that you've killed 100 times already.
Also, he
kind of show up.
He took that photo with him, and I feel like he wouldn't have been so. Well, I guess he doesn't know what's going to happen, but he wouldn't be so set on like I need a memento of you guys to take.
No,
with
he
me
knows
here.
what's going to happen.
Yeah, he knows he's going to die 100%.
But he doesn't know.
Yeah,
if they're
Bahamut's
gonna die.
like, dude, this is what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
right?
I guess I had assumed that they lived. I mean, it's funny to me that you think so unequivocally that they died, but I figured that they were living.
By the way,
past
which picture did you guys take with you?
Well, maybe you guys did the same thing. All of my pictures, except for the couple of like group selfies for missions, were bad photos of like legs clipping through monsters and like, which made my credit sequence great, by the way. Yeah, it's just like awful
mine
pictures.
too. It was amazing.
But I did pick just a nice one because I was like, well, I'm guessing that this is going to show up a little bit later.
So one of my favorite things about that sequence when you're picking it is that there are certain like stock phrases depending on which picture you're looking at, right? So if you pick up one that's just like the four dudes posing for a selfie, someone might say like, oh, all four of us, can't go wrong with that. Or it's like if there's one with the car, it's like, oh, well, yeah, we got to put the regalia in there, But then, or I think there's also, if you pick one with just like, hey, it's Gladio doing a thumbs up, he'd be like, you sure you want one of just me?
How would Ignis know, by the way?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because he makes comments.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Fix your game, Square.
I had one that was just a close up of like a low resolution ceiling, and it was like, and they were just like, remember that?
Really takes you back, doesn't
So
it?
I chose the cup of noodles. And it was hilarious at the end. They're like sitting on the throne, like, look at this. Shows Luna.
Brought to you by Cup.
Remember noodles?
The first time I did it, I chose a nice selfie with everyone in the car, or a nice picture with everyone in the car. And the second time I played through the ending, I chose one of Gladio's sister, Iris. Which really is a weird moment at the end where it's like, dead Noctis with his like bride by his side is like, I remember I went on a few dates with this girl. That was nice.
He's like showing it to her. Yeah.
But we should go back though a little bit because we're talking about like we really built up that this is a journey about marrying Luna, but when in fact his real fate was he's kind of a sacrificial lamb, right? Like given what happens because of what's his name, Ardyn, right?
Ardyn, yeah.
Yeah, I would love to hear if anyone has a better understanding of Ardyn.
So I actually read up on it a little bit, but if you have...
No, go ahead.
Okay,
He's
so
a vampire.
The thing that I read up was he was once serving under the kingdom, and he was like, he was kind of like a sacrificial lamb in and of himself, where like they would put all the spirits of the demons in his soul, and he would absorb it, and then like...
The idea being he was like cleansing people, like people who were sort of possessed.
Was he a king?
He was in line to be a king, but I think that like... King Regis, I think, exiled him because his soul...
Not Regis. It was
way before that.
Who
was it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Because he's immortal. His whole thing is he can't die.
So one of the kings exiled him because his soul had become so impure with all the demons that he had absorbed and cleansed others of. And he was like, well, I was supposed to be next in line for the kingdom. And so now he's kind of on this vendetta to get his kingdom back.
Okay, I wasn't sure if he was a king. Okay,
he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't actually a king as much as he was like supposed to be a king, and sort of had that opportunity taken away because he used this ability he had to sort of like absorb demons into himself to like help the people of his kingdom. But he did it so much that it sort of like tainted his soul to the point. I think the explanation is that he's like his soul was so tainted. Like the reason he's immortal is his soul was so tainted that he's denied an afterlife.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah,
it's such a cool thing.
But that's why when he kind of like took over the kingdom, when Noctis was absorbed into that crystal, that like all the demons just were unleashed on the world and like eternal night was happening.
Yeah, I mean, that was his end game, right? It was ultimate revenge on the kingdom, and you're all screwed.
Yeah, and to bring it low. But then also, I think that, I feel like maybe I understand it a little bit after playing through the ending a couple times and then doing a little bit of research. But like, why did he ever help Noctis?
Yeah, that was kind of confusing to me too.
It seems the closest I can get is that like he wanted Noctis for like revenge to be full and true, and for his victory to be complete. He needed to sort of defeat Noctis in his sort of ascended form, right? Like to prove superiority, you have to fight the king in all of his glory rather than just like some child version of the king who hasn't awakened to his power.
And the kind of the ultimate version of Noctis is the Ring of Power. What was the ring? Whatever the king's ring, the king ring.
The Ring of Lucis, and having meditated in the crystal for 10 years and all of that.
Maybe he needed that power to become, that whatever was in the king he could have absorbed. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would have maybe made him the ultimate being, very Highlander-esque kind of thing. There can be only one almost, but
yeah.
You and I had this discussion before. I was like, that is the one big thing. It's like, why not just kill all those bastards on the train? You had the shot, or even before that, like when they're on the road pushing their damn car.
Yeah.
I loved when Shiva popped up and like Ardyn's like trying to argue and she's just like, and he's frozen immediately.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite story moments.
Yeah. And some of the way those summons work, I know getting them to happen is erratic, but I really liked the implementation of them when you do call them. Like it really brings back the wonder of like summoning something that
it's a giant creature coming down to help you from the heavens.
There was times in the game where it's like, man, I wish I could just summon my thing here and end this battle. I'm grinding through it, but then at the same time, it's like back in Final Fantasy VII, you do those summons a billion times, and you'd be like watching your clock rather than the screen. Right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I did like that.
Yeah.
What did you think about, speaking of summons, the Ifrit battle?
Man, I mean, this is another like story disappointment for me. Is that I should also say I really enjoyed this game. Like this was my favorite game of last year.
It's one of mine.
So this is one of those like these are me nitpicking on it is just wishing that these parts of a game I love were better. But like I feel like the game did not explain well why Ifrit among the whole other like pantheon turned.
Yeah,
like why is Ifrit at odds with everyone else? Why did he join up with Ardyn?
I want to know. Yeah, I want to know the ranks of these
boss
gods.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah. See, I just thought, as someone who doesn't have really any history in Final Fantasy, like one of the reasons I'm sitting here is because you thought it'd be interesting for me to be in this conversation, because this is actually the first Final Fantasy I've finished. Mm-hmm. I have played a lot of them extensively even, but this is the first one I actually played to completion. Like Ifrit, I don't know who that is. I don't know why he's important. He just seemed like, here's a monster that I will place here for you to get past to get to me.
Well, they're always kind of connected to the story in different ways to a certain degree, like Aeons in Final Fantasy X. Yeah. I want to know more about their standing in this universe in Final Fantasy 15, where it almost seemed like he was kind of the demonic one. You know what I mean? Like fire and all that stuff. So maybe he was
sitting on the throne,
dark side. Yeah. And what is that hierarchy like in the God realm, or whatever you call them? These summon realm kind of thing.
Yeah. Because Kyle, it's not like there's anything implied by Ifrit
he's
as
recurring though, right?
Well, the name and the general visual thing is, but like he's not a recurring character. You see Ifrit in a game and you can infer absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah. There's no connection to all the games.
Final Fantasy X, he was like a giant like beast that was on fire, but like he didn't really have any form.
One thing that is interesting about it in this game, though, is that Ifrit is usually one of the first sort of like summoned creatures you encounter. So to have it be the last and one of the, presumably like one of the more powerful ones is kind of an interesting flip. But like as a character, like the summons are rarely ever characters anyway. They're just sort of monsters that show up and do things.
Before we move on from Ifrit, what did you guys think of them sort of playing their hand in the opening of the game that that they were going to age and be older in like the first 5 minutes or whatever?
I wondered about that because for me, I thought it was kind of hard. Like it's not immediately clear that they are that much old. Like I feel like the visual effects are such that you can definitely see it. And like I saw it, but I did not think that it was like so apparent that like, oh God, there's going to be this huge time jump. Because like you don't know who these characters are at that point. So
you haven't studied their faces to the extent that you would recognize.
Yeah.
I feel like through marketing and short films and Kingsley, like I actually did recognize those characters. Just maybe it's because I work at Game Informer and we covered the game extensively. But like the thing that I pulled away from it was like I'm either going to age a little bit over the course of the game, which is interesting, or I'm going to jump forward. And also the other thing I took away was like when you lose Prompto, I was like, well, he's fine. I'm going to get him back because I saw in the future already a little bit, you know? Like it's kind of an exciting way to open the game, but I think it would have been just as good if like it opened with that Florence the Machine song and like pushing the car. Like I thought that was an effective opening as well. So I don't know if I'm kind of curious what their reasoning was to have that there in the first opening.
Yeah. So another thing I wanted to talk about in terms of like dropped or confusing story threads. What? Did you
I was just going to say, one of the cool things about it's not just the time passage, but you rarely see characters kind of evolve over the course of a story in an RPG like these characters did. You know, Iggy and what happened there was crazy.
Oof. Yeah.
I mean, that was a dramatic alteration in who that character was. And I really, hats off to Square on making me care about these characters and giving them depth outside of just gaining new powers and stuff like that.
And
especially those four, especially the main four. Yeah.
I legitimately felt bad for Ignis, like when he lost his vision.
Yeah.
Oh, it was awful.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of stories that like give weight to. It's kind of, I guess it's hard to explain. Like you look at things like the Walking Dead comic or like Akira, where like, or even this is a weird one, How to Train Your Dragon, where like limbs are removed, like bad stuff will happen, and it's going to affect you long term. And I felt like that's what happened to Ignis, and I. Like I said, I felt bad for Ignis, but I really appreciated it in showcasing like bad things are going to happen. And it's going to affect you the rest of your life.
And I like that they were like, you know, it might come back, and then it just didn't. And you're like, yeah, my vision's not coming back, guys.
Yeah, I like how they don't flinch from that, and you can also tell in that sort of turn at the end when Noctis wakes up from the crystal that like a lot of people on that team like Final Fantasy VI. And know that a lot of people like Final Fantasy VI
or Ocarina of Time.
Shut up. So they straight up call it World of Ruin, which is what that second half of Final Fantasy VI is about. And without getting too spoilery about that, like that game does a great job of sort of setting up a kind of bleak tone that 15 echoes for a much shorter period, but still.
I popped when I saw World of Ruin. I wanted to go to your desk, but I was like, oh, I can't tell Joe this. Like this is like I was like, oh my God, they're really doing it.
Well, hey, just a quick question for like we don't want to linger on 6 too much, but is there a time jump? I know that the world goes evil, but is there a gap in time? Because my first thought
there is,
as like a non-Final Fantasy guy, was like, oh, this is like Ocarina of Time. Like Ganondorf has taken over, the world is evil, and now I've aged. I think it's 7 years in Ocarina of Time, 10 years in Final Fantasy.
Yeah, there's a 1 year time jump in 6.
Okay, because that's I was wondering, it's like, oh, is this like a recurring thing in Final Fantasy? Is time jumps, or does it happen in 6 and never really?
Yeah, I don't recall it happening in another one offhand.
Okay.
So another thing I wanted to talk about with you guys is I think.
Oh, one quick thing.
Yeah.
The guys in that 10-year gap, they didn't level up at all.
So did the 10-year gap represent the change in the development staff from the beginning of Final Fantasy 15 development?
Yeah, they started the game 10 years ago, took a 10-year break, and came back.
They didn't catch one fish.
They didn't catch a single fish. Didn't cook a single meal.
Walk a single step for Gladio.
Come on, Gladio.
So on the so we've talked about Luna and Regis a little bit. But I want to talk about the cast too, because it seems like, you know, we joke about the long development of this. I think there are some remnants of a long development that you can see in the way the narrative goes
100%. Yeah. 100% it's there.
Especially for me, it was the characters of like that Emperor and Luna's brother, Ravis.
Oh
God.
Oh yeah.
And the Marshal Corps. Like these are all characters. Oh, and I really like the character Aranea, the mercenary.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see more of her. But anyway, but beyond Aranea, those 3 characters to start off with. It feels like they were supposed to play a different role or do something more than they did, and it just sort of got like swept under the rug a little bit.
Yeah. I hope that's what one of their upcoming DLCs is going to be.
Oh, I'd love that.
Focusing on that stuff.
Well, they've talked about the DLC stuff. At least, I guess I don't know if they've comprehensively detailed it, but we know that each of the 3 bros is getting their own like little section, which I don't know that they've gone into total detail with it, but it would make sense. All 3 of them have a period. If you look at like when Prompto is captured, when Gladio goes off on his own, and when Ignis is like gets blinded.
When Gladiolus goes on his own, it's just like the shortest, most uninspired little break. You're just like,
also his return is like,
it's like, who's this guy? It's like,
hey, it's
we know
me.
who
Oh yeah,
It's,
forgot about that.
It's me, Gladio, with a mask on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Your voice sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Oh, you have all the moves that Gladio usually does.
Ignis's DLC would be really easy because it could just all be sound.
It's one of those fights where you're supposed to lose.
Just keep hitting B. Hopefully. I think I'm winning.
But yeah, for me, so did you guys get what happened to the Emperor?
No, I saw his clothes. Did he get new clothes? He's running around naked.
Boy,
Somebody
Kyle.
trick him?
The implication is that the Emperor, that that big demon that keeps like that you can't really kill until the very end of chapter 13. There's one who keeps coming back that you essentially have to flee from.
I hated that guy.
Yeah.
The idea is like that's the Emperor.
Holy crap! I didn't even see any kind of connection there.
Yeah. I forget exactly how the game tells you that. There's like a little diary or something floating that implies that like all of the people you're fighting in that last area are like citizens of that imperial city that have just sort of been transformed.
That's awesome.
What's the brother's name again? Luna's brother?
Ravis.
Yeah, that was like, I felt like I fell down a shaft and found his body. And I was like, oh, I think you're important.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
Ravis specifically is something that they mentioned like so right when the game came out, the team came out and said like, hey, we're gonna respond to some feedback here, add a little more story, tweak chapter 13 a little bit.
Oh, they need to.
And Ravis is one of the specific story threads that they mentioned, is sort of like adding a little more context around him and what happened there. So that would be good.
And not to go too deep into game development, but like when I talk to Naughty Dog, a lot of games get edited over time, sections get cut out. And when they have a narrative that's that tight, like for an Uncharted game, like if that level's not working, they got to restructure the level because they can't lose that story content. I think with the open world setting, I think there's just big chunks that might have been lopped off and are floating in development hell or might come back. I'm hoping some of that stuff does, because there is a lot of stuff in that game that seems interesting and deep, but it never goes anywhere.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And then the last, to me, this is the last major point I wanted to touch on, is that you remember when in chapter 13 again, when you like need to open an elevator and then Prompto's like, hey guys, got a bombshell for you. I'm like one of these Magitech guys somehow. And everyone's like, it's okay, we love you anyway. And that is just the beginning and end of that.
That was it.
What is it?
Is that covered in the animated short or something?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like...
that was it. Because I was like, all right.
There was... Yeah, he brought it up, and I was like, should I think that that's a weird thing? Like, I didn't even feel like I should think it's a bad thing. Like, it was very strange.
I was like, do we got to keep an eye on him? Like, what? And it's like, no, we're done.
And I know that we all don't necessarily need a game to spell everything out for us all the time. There's a little bit of ambiguity, like ambiguity in storytelling and stuff I think is great. But I think there's a difference between like when a story that you're presented with is sort of like tantalizing you with possibilities and when it just leaves you feeling like something was left incomplete.
Right.
And to me, like that was my problem with a lot of this story, is that even if you can go and find answers to what happened, the fact is that like this game doesn't do a great job of explaining it. Compare it to real quick, Final Fantasy 13, which that game's problem is that it offloaded a ton of what happened and like a ton of explanation and motives into these like
loading screens.
Were essentially just like codex entries that you had to read. That is not a good solution. But at least it is a solution because this game doesn't has those holes, but instead of filling them a bad way, doesn't really fill them at all.
Do you think
that's real quick, I wonder a year from now if we're going to have the same complaints with the DLC. Because I think as far as a Final Fantasy narrative, I think this one's really scaled back, especially compared to like 13, even 10 to a degree. Like they don't really veer off the beaten path a lot. It's a lot about that journey of those 4 guys, and then the big conflict, which is at the kingdom, right? The marriage, which gives way to the death, which gives way to the nemesis revealing himself, and then final showdown.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was really clean in that regard. But yeah, there are a lot of these things that they just kind of inserted as key players. I think that most of the stuff is about these key players, not necessarily plot threads that are just lost, but just like, what is up with this guy? What's happening here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Weddings in Final Fantasy go about as well as they do in Game of Thrones.
That's true.
They're always just disasters.
Oh.
At the end of the game, which was a sweet scene where Luna's laying her head down, next to Noctis.
And it turns into the logo.
Yeah. My daughter goes, they got married after they died? she just was like, man, that's weird. Like, all right.
I actually thought, to me, that was a super cool moment.
I loved it, yeah.
Not just like, because we've been seeing that Final Fantasy logo for 10 years now, right? Like that was the Versus 13 logo that just got like a slight color, like a color shift when they rebranded as 15. So to see A, how that figures into the story, and B, to sort of have the Noctis added in to the logo, I thought that was a really cool flourish at the end.
I did love that a lot.
Yeah.
They were trying to fake you out at that point, though. Like that was just intentional. Like, you think you know what's going on? Well, guess what happened here? And you're like, wait a minute. But then you realize, like, okay, they fought, because there was like the final fight went into the afterlife, right?
Yeah. So that's my understanding. I guess we didn't touch on that exactly. My understanding is that like Noctis is actually killed, and sort of in the afterlife is when he has to deal the sort of fatal blow to Ardyn.
Yeah, they're like both on the brink of still existing, right? Like, to a degree, like in whatever realm of reality is there.
Yeah, and then Noctis, and this is what one of the interpretations that supports the like everyone dies theory is that like, okay, Noctis is in the afterlife, he's dead. Regis and Luna are there, they're dead, and Ignis, Gladio, and Prompto are there. So it's like, they're probably dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like in that world, or in that sort of between space, they end up dealing the final blow to Ardyn, which presumably, because then that like you see the sun rising and stuff like that.
Yep.
And they show the 4 empty camping chairs. Is like one of the closing shots.
Yeah,
so it's like
pretty big hint.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Or
I'm kind of changing my mind now.
Like DC Comics, Earth 4, where nothing bad ever happened.
Boo.
And this is just the clean narrative.
I mean, we were talking about a lot of things that like the game didn't do very well narratively, but like the thing that they did extremely well was just the relationship of the 4 guys. Like, it's unbelievable how attached to that cast that I got. And
my favorite cast of characters in any Final Fantasy, just because they're so well developed and front and center.
And the interactions between them, and it's just it's so good.
They were all interesting in their own ways.
Yeah,
it really is the best Ninja Turtle game that I've ever played. It is fun. They really did feel like, and that's not a knock against the game, but a Noctis against the game. But it felt like, it really felt like they hit those Ninja Turtle archetypes, and I was like, oh, this works actually. Turns out these 4 guys is like a really compelling version of for a good narrative, because I like the Ninja Turtles too. Joe's giving me a look like you don't agree with me. Come on, Noctis is Leonardo. Prompto is Michelangelo. Ignis is Donatello.
Of course.
And Gladio is Raphael. My daughter made that connection too without even me bringing that up.
I don't buy it.
You don't buy it?
I don't think so.
It's just coincidence.
All right. Well, I mean, I think
I'm not even going to address it.
Who's Baxter Stockman?
Not buying it. Okay.
He died somewhere.
Okay.
They didn't address it.
Luna's Baxter Stockman.
Okay.
Luna is April O'Neil.
All right. Well, should we end on the note about Ninja
we
Turtles?
all agree it is. It's a well done story. It's worth discussing, and is spoiled because they did a good job of keeping someone in a mystery, but also kind of knocking your socks off at the same time, right?
And a game I absolutely loved.
I felt like I was like, whoa.
It surprised me a lot.
This ended in a nice way.
It's funny because I the first half of the game is open world. I was enjoying the open world. I was enjoying the combat. That was enough to pull me along. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing in terms of narrative. And then right as you finish chapter 9 and it like kind of like, all right, here you go, we're going. Like then I liked how it was divided that way. I think some people didn't, but I actually enjoyed that the first half is a nice open world build up to what is a lot of narrative in the second half. And I liked that setup.
Yeah. The whole a dog helps you travel through time mechanic is maybe a little weird.
I mean, that's just a failure of game design. I mean, really it is.
Yeah.
It is like, if they're not leveled up enough, we need a way for them to level up. Well, the only way we could do that would be to go back to the open world, but the open world has been corrupted and we can't send them back there story-wise, so we need time travel?
Yeah, but it's like, if it's time travel and you get all your stuff, why wouldn't you fix something? It's like, hey, Luna, he's going to stab you, so...
Put on your anti-stab dress.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Iggy, something bad's going to happen to you at this point. Like, don't go this way.
Wear protective goggles.
Yeah, wear your bulletproof goggles or whatever happened to you.
Yeah. So,
that part was super dumb. I told you, like, when I got to that point in the game, I was like, guys, something really dumb just happened. Like, really, really, I can't even wrap my brain around the decision they made here.
Before we wrap it up, that is actually something I wanted to ask you. Like, when you were trying to make sure everyone was spoiler free, there was a decision made in this game.
That was it.
That was it.
That was the one where I was like, this is the dumbest
where
thing.
Where you can time travel.
Yeah, I was just like, like seriously, like Joe said, it's like, why wouldn't you go back and just fix everything and take care of it? You know how it's going to unfold. Like Back to the Future, like, take care of it. But
yeah, I mean, no. I think the idea isn't that you are actually I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. I guess the way I framed it in my mind was that I was just sort of watching stuff that was presumed to have happened before.
Sure, you could say that.
I mean, yeah, but like,
then get rid of the whole dog thing. You know,
it's still stupid. It's still stupid. Yeah,
you know, they should have done like 10 years ago. ... And then you went back to it, and then, you know, back to modern time.
Oh yeah, you could do it that way, I suppose.
But
no, they had a journal or something and start writing. And
nope, they had to introduce character with the dog and whatever.
It's a good dog.
Yeah,
whatever. Square. We fix your damn game.
we keep veering back towards the bad stuff, but I mean, I think as has been hinted at already, what you've got, I think, is a strong core cast, a sort of compact core narrative, and that's all good. And there may be some other elements introduced along the way that feel like they're dangling a little bit, but I think the basic experience is like interesting and satisfying and fun.
One of the most unique gaming experiences of 2016, a fresh new take for Final Fantasy, a great entry point for new players. Like if you've always wanted to go into this series and you're intimidated by the number or what slow turn-based RPGs, that is not this game. This is a whole new thing.
And
check it out.
Gives the franchise new legs because it was kind of tailing off there for a little bit.
Well, hopefully. Well, they said this might be the last one if it doesn't do well. So hopefully it does well.
Yeah.
Hopefully those legs are doing, running the miles that need to be run.
It shows that the franchise has legs still.
Yeah. And hopefully we get another one because I want them to follow this. I want this formula. I want them to come back. Not necessarily 4 guys in a car, but open, the open world approach they have and the combat especially, like they're onto something really great. Keep honing those mechanics, bring it back for another game.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you on our next episode of Spoiled.